Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chaz Kayado, and the topic of today's discussion is one of a two-part series dealing with mental health in education. And so today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about student mental health. This is a topic I know that has been increasingly discussed in education, um, particularly particularly in the past 5 years, 6 years since the COVID pandemic. The mental health of students, and there is there's a lot of different factors that have uh, contributed to the problem of student mental health, but um, but regardless of the reasoning, it's something that is essentially an epidemic among students. Matter of fact, according to the Learning Policy Institute, about 2 in 5 students feel hopeless or sad in high school. So, I mean, just think about that. Basically, 40% of students have some type of feeling of sadness or hopelessness at some point during high school. And, this is, I mean, that's a large number. It's a very large number. In another video, we had mentioned that there's something around right under 20 million students in America. So I mean, you're talking about 8 million high school students or so who are dealing with sadness, loneliness, or hopelessness. I mean, that's a significant number. Also, up to 50% of college students have some type of mental health issue during college. And so, a lot of this is attributed to what is, anxiety is the highest percentage, which is given about 16%. Depression is listed as about 8% of the reasons for uh, the mental health issues that we're seeing in students. And so, part of this is students feel anxious about academics. Okay, so this has kind of always been the case. And not to say that anxiety is hasn't increased over time, but I can remember when I was in high school, there were always students that's really struggled with testing, particularly standardized testing, because you really only got a few shots at it. I mean, if you took your standardized testing once a year, that's one thing. But then even your college tests, your SAT, your ACT, you don't get to take those every day, right? So you prepare for a few months and you take them. And some students just really struggled with the thought that all of this work went into just one test. And so that type of anxiety has always existed. But I think we're seeing a new level of anxiety among students in the past couple of decades. You've seen the increase in cyberbullying. You've seen an increase in, just students just being online more, just generally being aware of the world around them. And, uh, you know, in some ways, that's a great thing, right? To be more aware of the world around you, but in other ways, it exacerbates have versus have not mentality, right? And so if a student is habitually online, habitually on social media, this is the type of website that you can get a dopamine hit from oh, I want to put out something that's going to get a lot of likes. So you're scrolling through and you're just seeing people posting that, oh well, this all these great things are always happening to me. And what does that do to a person? Well, why doesn't that good stuff happen to me? And the reality of it is that not every Instagram post, Facebook post, not all of them show the reality of a situation. Sometimes they're dressed up for those likes, but young students, they're going to struggle to understand that, and they're going to possibly feel more alienated, feel more depressed about their current situation. Why did XYZ happen to me? Um, and so being habitually online can increase the amount of anxiety and depression, loneliness, helplessness, um, that has been mentioned in these studies. And so the CDC recommends that high schools have their own high school based strategies to deal with this epidemic. So I've read that many different high schools are increasing the amount of counselors that they have on staff. So that way, when students have some type of mental health crisis, they're not waiting significantly long periods of time to see someone and talk to someone. But the counter to that is, and we've mentioned this in other videos, is that there's also a budget crisis for many school districts around the country. So by increasing the staff there, they may have to take away from budgets somewhere else. And so uh, this may be something that limits some school districts for getting new counselors because they know that if they were to carve out more money, it would come from funding something else. So it might not be a reality that every school district can simply increase the number of counselors that they have. So the APA cites that there's an increased need for healthcare workers to treat students on the spot. Okay, so that's something that I basically just mentioned, but uh, trying to get and deal with those problems immediately, as soon as possible, before they become something worse, right? And we have seen epidemics of, um, you know, extreme levels of dealing with anxiety, depression, and helplessness. And so it's difficult to get to everyone and give everyone the attention that they need. But if we can have a way or have a strategy, and that's what the CDC cites, that school-based strategy that's going to help out significantly. And also the faculty is essentially going to be considered the front line of defense. Okay, because faculty gets to see their students every day, right? A counselor probably not seeing the same student every day, so you get to see, oh well, this student seems to be acting a little different lately. Let me just keep an eye on them. And so faculty need to be trained in a way that they can understand and recognize how student behavior may change when they're dealing with depression, when they're dealing with anxiety, and then also how can I, within the confines of what is appropriate for a teacher, how can I help alleviate some of the issues that this student might be dealing with, not as a surrogate counselor and not stepping in to do anything that a counselor would do, but can I change the way I talk to this person? Can I arrange um, can I arrange the way the class is structured? Can I move the student somewhere else in the class that may be better suited for their mental health? Those are the types of things that if you can make those little changes up front, it's not necessarily going to fix every situation, but if the teachers are going to be that front line of defense, they need to have the knowledge of how to deal with that. So we've also seen in recent years there's been a rise in private online mental health counseling, and so this has also made it easier um, for people to talk to mental health professionals. Now, students can't necessarily enter into that themselves, but if they have a parent that's willing to um, you know uh, do what's necessary for them to see a mental health professional. If there's not one readily available, there are significant options available online now that were not available prior to COVID. And that is probably one of the inflection points where we saw a large increase in student mental health. There's once again, there's always been an underlying student mental health crisis, but it has been exacerbated in recent years with the rise of technology because you're online more. But then also, COVID did a lot of different things to different students. Some students really, really struggled with the loneliness of COVID, and some of those students may have been away from friends for over a year. Maybe in some instances, a year and a half to 2 years, they were essentially on an island where they didn't have much interaction with their peers. They didn't have much physical interaction with people their own age, and so this may have severely set back their social development, but also just simple things that are important, foundational learning situations. They missed it, right? And so that may be what many students are dealing with now is they never learned some of those coping mechanisms at important developmental ages, and now they're really struggling. But um, as I mentioned in another video, if you've seen it yet, I've talked about the job market, and just there's students now have a very negative view of the future, whether that be college, whether that be the job market that's available for them once they graduate. They're struggling right now to understand what is for them after they graduate high school, and this is going to contribute to that mental health crisis of feeling helplessness during your high school years. And so as teachers, we are the front line, but we need to be educated on what we can do, what is appropriate, what um, what is effective, and we also need to try to help any way to within what a teacher is capable of doing appropriately. Are there any ways that we can introduce coping mechanisms, or is there any way we can introduce different pathways to help students overcome some of these mental health issues without having the need to always see a mental health professional. Obviously, if a mental health professional is available, then that would be a great pathway to go down. But remember, not every school district has the resources to get in more counselors as we're seeing a rise in mental health problems. So, okay, that was the video on student mental health, and I will have another video about teacher mental health. Thank you.